You know, it is very interesting bothered, how upset certain people, not a whole bunch, but it's just certain people out there. And when I used to do videos like this about defaulting on stuff, when it's the right time to default on something that you can no longer pay for whatever circumstances have come your way, by no means am I going to call a debt consolidation agency and, hey, I owe $10,000 in debt that I can't pay anymore. Oh, well, we'll make your payment smaller. Will that help? Oh, okay. And then how much do I end up paying you by the time I get it paid off? Oh, about 4 times that amount. I'm going to pay you $40,000. Yeah, but we're going to extend it. Instead of 5 years, we're going to make it like 15 or 10 years, whatever it ends up being. And by the time you're done paying us off with the interest, you just paid 4 times what was owed. If this is so wrong to default on a debt object or debt obligation, why in the hell is there laws in this country and other countries, but because we're all Americans for the most part, that people that subscribe to me and Greg Vegas, right? We're basically speaking to Americans. And anybody who has an English language pretty much has that same ability to bankrupt out of something for the most part. Any country. Why are there bankruptcy laws? Why are there bankruptcy? Why are you allowed to file bankruptcy? If you can't and you have to pay that debt off, it's your obligation. You signed that agreement. Why is there debt, or why is there bankruptcy laws? Good question, Jay Snip. Why is that the case? Well, I'd like to read something to you, and it doesn't get any better than this. It's so simple. It's so obvious. You're not going to be able to give me the answer and say, well, this is why you still have to. Wait a minute. You're right, Jay Snip 4. Never mind. Debt by. Forget it. Let me start. Article 1, Section 8, U.S. Constitution. United States Constitution. The supreme law of the land from day one when this country was created. Are you ready? Congress shall have power to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin. Article 1, Section 10. No state within the United States shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payments of debt. Maybe I need to read that again. Maybe that went in some of your ears and out the other ear. No state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payments of debt. Note, and this is this article I'm going to finish reading here. That's right out of the Constitution, by the way. So if I don't have gold and silver coin because my country was hijacked a long time ago, stealthily, by the banking system, the bankers, and they changed things against the Constitution, never had the Constitution ratified to reflect those changes, then by God, it's all null and void, isn't it? I don't have the ability to get paid in gold and silver. Now, sure, I could use their system, which I don't have a choice because they switched it on us. Remember, we're now using paper money. So the average person could say, well, go turn your paper money in for gold and silver coin, and then take the gold and silver coin and give it to the banks to pay them off. And you know what? You could probably do that, but they won't accept it. You can't walk into a bank with gold and silver coins and say, here's today's value on the exchange. Here, I'm making my payment to you today in 1 ounce of gold and 30 pieces of silver, whatever, right? Couldn't do it. They won't accept it. Cash or check, sir. That's it. So I can't even use cash or check. I would have to sell it to a coin dealer or a personal friend or somebody, personal party, private party, to get the money or the check or cash. The Constitution doesn't say you're supposed to go to a third party, fourth party, whatever, secondary party to get the money to do this. It says, no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in the payment of debts. So if I have lost the ability because the states don't follow that Constitution anymore, the country, of course, doesn't follow that, and that's where it started, then by God, all debts by default of this, by default definition, are null and void because we don't have the proper means anymore like we used to, which would be gold and silver, to pay those debts. Therefore, they are automatically null and void. Thank you. Note, there is no such prohibition against Congress or any delegated power to make anything legal tender. Congress was originally understood to have no power to make anything legal tender outside of federal territories. Under Article 1, Section 8, and Article 4, Section 3, whatever. But in 1868, a Supreme Court, packed by President Ulysses S. Grant in the legal tender cases, allowed Congress, so the Supreme Court said it's okay, therefore their interpretation of a document that the whole entire United States interprets as obvious, gold and silver is coin, not pieces of paper, not even paper backed by gold and silver, right? So, big Supreme Court decision, 1868. They attacked the United States that fast. We can't have gold and silver coin. We've got to have our central banking system implemented immediately. 1868, this takes place. The legal tender cases allowed Congress to make paper money, currency, issued by the U.S. Treasury, backed by gold. Okay, so the Supreme Court decision to interpret legal tender, which is blatant, is very simple statement. Nothing but silver and gold coin is legal tender in payment of debts. Pretty obvious. There's only a monkey can interpret that as one thing, right? This is actually silver, right? Okay. These things in here are 100% silver, 999 fine silver, whereas the other one I showed you is actually 90%, but nonetheless, that's gold and silver. This piece of paper, which is actually my Gainesville coins receipt, if I print the word on there, $5, $10, $20, $50, back, and even right on there, backed by gold and silver. This is a piece of paper with writing on it. It is not gold and silver. This is silver. Therefore, when the Supreme Court decides we're going to allow, which is what this says right here, they allowed the Treasury to create paper currency backed by gold. That was okay because it's backed by gold, and at any time, turn the paper in and get some gold back. Well, okay. Still backed by gold, so the sheeple of America back then, okay. As long as I can get my gold when I turn this thing in. Yes, you can. And then what happens just a few short years later, 1868, not necessarily a few years, but roughly 40 years later, 1913 comes around. We got the central bank in power now, Federal Reserve. And then it starts changing some of the rules. And what do we have in 1934? The Gold Confiscation Act, put in place by the president. We're going to take everybody's gold. No citizen can hold any gold unless it's a historic type of gold. It's like an artifact. You can keep it. Everything else, gold coin, turn it in. But we're going to give you today's fair market price. So it's not like we're stealing it from you people. We're going to help the country get out of debt. We just had these World War, right? 1934, 35, Depression takes place right after the previous, World War, World War I. Then we have just a few short years later, 1929 stock market crash, etc. And now they've taken people's gold and said, we're going to give you fair market value for it, so don't worry. And then a year later, after they gave them $20 an ounce, it went to $35. Like that. Almost doubled. Which also means you had a de facto almost doubling down of your dollar being devalued. And what about that 1868 Supreme Court decision with Ulysses S. Grant present that said you can print paper as long as it's backed by gold? See, so we start with gold and silver, real thing. Then it turns into let's print money because not everyone's going to go in and pull the gold out, and we know this. And there's not enough gold to go around right now because the bankers have taken it all. And they're the ones that are holding it all. The richest ones in the family or in the world, the richest families in the world, they have it all. And they want more of it. So where did all that gold go? If the government took the gold and paid everybody in 1934 paper back, here you go, where did it go? Who has it? Where did it go? Where did that gold go? Go look it up. Find out, where did the gold go in which they gave us paper money? You already know the answer. The bankers got it. And now that the bankers owned the paper creating entity known as the Federal Reserve, you know that gold was transferred to them, and what did they do with it? Who sits at the top of the board of all the member banks of the Federal Reserve? The 12 branches or 13 branches, whatever it is. Jamie Dimon, elite guy over here, elite guy over there, right? The same families, the same banking families of past dynasties. So it says, again, the legal tender cases allowed Congress to make paper currency issued by the U.S. Treasury backed by gold legal tender on state territory, a precedent that remains controversial to this day when courts allow paper currency not backed by anything to be considered legal tender. So we have a piece of paper that says on it, this is legal tender, but they're saying we need to have a piece of paper that says on it, legal tender, but the paper itself can't be legal tender. So it's backed by a legal tender. The paper can say, this is $1 backed by gold. This is $1 backed by silver, etc. Not, this is a paper dollar backed by itself, paper dollar. That's what it says now. That's what it says. Right on the dollar, any of your currency, this note is legal tender payable to, for any public, private debts, blah, blah, blah. That in itself is null and void, because the definition of legal tender is gold and silver. And if they've allowed us to go to paper money that's backed by legal tender, which is gold and silver, backed by gold and silver, again, it still goes against the Constitution, but since it's backed, I know I can go to the bank and pull out gold or silver in this amount of paper money I brought to the bank. Not anymore. You get nothing, nor can you even go to a bank and say, I've got X amount of silver and gold, change that out for paper dollars for me right now, like a coin shop. Now you got to go to a coin shop on the corner or call one of the big guys, APMEX, Monex, Gainesville Coins, whoever. Will you guys buy my silver today? And maybe, you know what? We bought a lot recently. We're kind of, the price dropped. We're not selling. We're not buying it. We're not buyers anymore right now. Then what? Then you can't go pay your bills? This is not how it's supposed to work. So if I have debt in an illegal system, null and void system, or not null and void system, if I have debt in a system that is illegal, unconstitutional, it becomes automatically null and void. It was null and void from the very beginning. Just like if you get into a contract and, for example, your neighbor lady, real cute lady, down on her luck, comes over, I need to borrow $50. And can I borrow $50? Well, yeah, you could borrow $50, lady, but I need, we're going to have to write up a little contract that you're going to, so I know you're going to pay it back. And if you don't pay it back, then there's, consequences. There's, I can go after you for something. Okay, let's write it up. And in the contract, it states, if you don't pay this money back, I get to have sex with you. The contract is immediately null and void, because you cannot make a contract that says sex with the woman next door. If you lose and don't pay me back, I get to have sex with you. Or, another example, if you don't pay this back, I can murder you. You sign the contract, it's legal, and you shook hands on it. Doesn't matter. You cannot do it. It's null and void, and will be found null and void in every court of law, even nowadays with these corrupt judges. It's still null and void. It will be thrown out. Done. You won't have to pay anything. You won't have to go have sex with the neighbor, right? This is just a crazy example I'm giving you to show you that just because you put something in writing that could be so absurd and someone agrees to it, because we have laws and the Constitution to protect us, that becomes null and void. So if that's the case, all of these debts and the whole debt-based society we're living under is null and void by itself. So even if you, and by the way, when I defaulted on my credit cards, it wasn't as if, a year or 6 months or whatever before that happened, I decided, I'm going to rack up some credit cards and then default on them. I'll make some payments and then default. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go do. That wasn't my intention at all. Circumstances had changed for old Jason at 4, and I had to start, thinking about some things. What do I want to pay? What do I not want to pay? And then they start jacking my rates on me, and that was it. Done. That pretty much, I was looking for the answer, and that basically became the answer when I got that What? How much are you trying to raise my rates? I'm still making payments. What? Gone. Have a nice day. So there's your answer. And what I have just told you, I haven't made up. I didn't stretch. I didn't make it fit my, perceived point of view. This is right out of the Constitution. There's even some Supreme Court case here, right? Which they're calling it the legal tender cases. And even then, it wasn't right, as we all know. But, the Supreme Court says it is. Well, who appoints the Supreme Court judges when they step down and this and that? The president. Hey. So you have a federal agency picking its own friends, to be the federal agency. It's part of the club. So naturally, you could say, well, the club's going to vote for the club. Duh. Obviously. And even so, it still said it has to be backed by gold in order to do this paper money game. Oh, okay, all right. And then after 1934, backed by gold, we're taking it all. We're giving you $20 today. Next year, it goes down to $35 an ounce, or goes up to $35 an ounce. So people lost almost half their wealth a year later by turning in their gold. And the bad part about that was back then, even if they held on to it for a year or two, and then said, oh, great, it's up to $35. I made out like a bandit. It's already past the time that you were supposed to turn it in. So now what are you going to do? They're going to probably seize it from you if you try to turn it in at that point because it's too late. The law was already passed. So then you lose. So what are you going to do? Hold on to it for 30, 40, 50, 60 years and hope that someday you'll be allowed to own gold again? Well, that's what happened. But that was also back then. That's not going to happen now. Because at the end of the paper-backed fiat currency central banker system, they always go back to gold and silver because it was getting off of gold and silver that caused the problem to begin with. They recognize it. They don't want to lose all their power. So they already have the game plan jotted down. And at the end of it, we'll bail all of our buddies out. We'll make them filthy rich so we can retain this control and power. When the new gold and silver, whatever standard comes out, we'll still be on top. And anyone who has the foresight to see that will make out unbelievably well at the same time. I don't see them confiscating gold and silver, or at least not silver specifically, because it's an industrial use metal, it's in medical equipment, all kinds of stuff. I don't see that happening. Gold, I don't see it happening either, but it could. You never know. Why would I think it would not happen? Simply because the average American, the average person on the planet, for so long now, because we've all been using paper money and the whole planet's doing it now, doesn't really recognize gold and silver as money or really an investment. Even those who do see it as an investment, they go buy the paper version of it. Oh, I've got some shares. I've got a SLV share, GLD share, or I've got a mining company share. You don't actually have gold or silver. So there's so few physical individuals that actually hold physical silver and gold that I don't see there's a chance in hell why the government would even say we're going to pass this law to take everyone's gold. No, almost nobody's got it. Back then, everybody had it. They didn't trust the banks. They were just going through that transition. Nobody was sure. So everybody still had plenty of gold and silver. And then the government comes out, we're taking all your gold, and we're going to give you paper money in exchange. So I've said enough. It's null and void. If you decide on your own conscience or whatever you want to call it, and I'm with you 100%, by the way, that, you know what, if you said this to yourself, I'm going to go rack up some serious credit card debt right now and buy some silver with it. You know what? I'd say more power to you. More power to you. They've taken trillions of dollars from us, as I said in my last video. They've taken trillions from us without even allowing us to write a contract on how do we get that money back. They took it through the Federal Reserve, who then took it from us, where it originally came from, and now they're lending it back to us at big-time interest while they get it from the Federal Reserve at near zero interest without signing a contract. Imagine that. So if you're going to purposely go to one of these giants, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citi, etc., and purposely decide I'm going to rape and pillage them and then make a few payments and stop, or whatever your plan is, I wouldn't say don't do it ever. I would say more power to you. Get your gold and silver. Forget gold. Get silver now. Yeah, they're going to go after you. Yeah, they're going to start sending you threatening letters. Yeah, they may take you to court. And yeah, they may even win. And yeah, they might garnish your wages depending on what state you live in to get that money back. But that's something you have to understand and deal with. They will usually try to settle with you first. So most of the time it's 50% that they'll settle with you. So if you had $20,000 in credit card debt, bought $20,000 worth of silver right now, by the time it's 6-7 months from now, if we can time this right, by the way, or if not you time this right and say, well, they'll start sending me letters in about 3 or 4 months, then they're going to start sending settlement letters. And when they get down to 50%, then I'll settle. Well, you bought $20,000 worth of silver, so you can sell $10,000 worth of silver. And hopefully if the price goes up from now till then, you won't have to sell half your silver. You can sell less than half of your silver. Pay them off their payoff fee. Tell them to get lost. They're happy. Go have a nice day. And you get to keep half the silver. I didn't do that. I did not plan that when I had problems with my credit cards, as I've said. But after seeing how the system goes and seeing what happens when one does default, well, if you're going to strategically default, I might as well inform you of how it goes. And that's the point of this video. At least part of it. Anyways, I hope you've learned something. Those of you who just don't understand this corrupt banking system. You were born into it. You had no say-so over it. And you just wake up one day and start using it, thinking it's always been there. It's always been that way. And I know I'm struggling right now. I know I'm having a hard time paying my bills, but everybody is. My friends are. Everybody does it, so it's just normal. It's normal for everybody to just struggle. Until you look on the news and TV, well, Jamie Dimon's not struggling. Head of CEO of J.P. Morgan and the head of Goldman Sachs, he's not struggling. And even this guy from MF Global who stole people's money, mixed it with his own, tried to bet on European debt, lost the bet, lost 1/3 of futures contracts that were demanding delivery in gold. Those didn't get put out because they were going through his company. They still haven't even been paid back their cash money for those contracts, nor can they pull out the contracts at the price they had the contracts to get their gold and silver. He hasn't even been put in jail. And man, he's still living large after he just went bankrupt, his company. But you peasant, you sucker, you consumer, you taxpayer, you're supposed to suffer and keep paying that debt. And while you suffer, you can always go turn on the TV and wait for one of the 1-800 credit score, whatever commercial to come on and sing along with it. And you can even go look on your online credit score and see how great it is. Look at this. Got a 790 credit score right here. Look at that. Yeah. But didn't you just have to take one of your kids out of daycare and your wife just lost her job? Yeah. Of course. Who cares? I've got a 790 credit score. See it? 790. 790. 790. Yeah. Aren't you getting behind on some of your payments now? Yeah. About 2 months later, I got behind on those payments. But what about your 790s? Yeah, it's down to 6 something now. Oh, it's down to 5. Actually, now it doesn't even register. When I look, it just when I log into my thing to see what it is online, it says LOL. Credit score, click here, I click LOL, laughing out loud. But I did have a 790 one time, and I'm going to tell that story to my future children's children. And Grandpa J Snip 4, he had a 790 credit score, boys and girls. Let his house get lost his house, lost his credit card, ended up getting divorced because the bills were piling up. Wife couldn't handle it because he maintained that 790 credit score as long as he could, and it finally went away anyways. So if it's going to go away anyways, don't trouble yourself now.